Hello everyone and welcome back. My name is Nina and welcome to my knitting podcast. In some ways I feel like I've now copied that. For my German podcast episodes I have this really nice introduction I do, and with my English one I never stick with it. Whatever. Apparently I'm more of a professional in German than I am in English. But we're doing things slightly different today. I've just finished filming my German one, was about to take a break, and I was like, nah, let's just go right into it. Because this is an experiment for me, where I want to see. I'm always so tired when I film my German ones. So I was like, what happens if I flip it? Do it the other way around. Will I have more energy for my German one? Will I then be tired for my English one? Stick around until the end of this video to see if my energy levels drop with this video. Confusion levels are high. Not necessarily because I'm switching language, but I did think that maybe filming an English second would be easier because I spend so much time talking in English, thinking in English, reading in English, knitting in English, that maybe it will be easier for me not to have to be as focused because I can just go blah. So welcome to my blah content today. I have quite a bit to share. I did notice that I talked a lot more in my German episodes today than I normally do. And I wonder if that means you are all in for a slightly shorter episode. I doubt it. I always find stuff to say, don't I? And I'm not sad about it. But let's start with the wonderful, wonderful thing that is on my body. I finished my Darkwater Sweater. 2 weeks ago when I showed it off and panicked, I was here. Can you believe that? I was here. Finished off the colour work, finished off the body, finished the sleeves. Long sleeves, long body. So my hips are here. So it's a decent length. And I love it. I have been releasing the Darkwater Sweater videos. I've got one more where I finish knitting it. And then I need to film a video where I talk about, kind of give you the final thoughts, final wrap-up, roundup of the whole experience. So this was my first finished fingering weight colourwork jumper. It's also the first one I've ever started. I talk about this every time that I've now officially started. I started another one before this one was even done, but it doesn't matter. It's not perfect, and I'm okay with that. Because I think it looks quite good on camera, but when you see it in person, there are a couple of stitches where I've had quite long floats, caught my floats, but sometimes they've popped through because my tension was a bit of an issue, because I was so paranoid about having this all be puckered and, you know, pulled together because my tension wasn't loose enough, that I knit a lot of these bits too loosely. But whenever there were sections where you just alternate between the colours all the time, no catching your floats, we were all fine. I talked about it a bit in, was it the latest? I think it was the latest Darkwater Sweater video that you would have seen, if you watched it. So it's not perfect, especially with these single stitches down here. They're quite big because the floats are so long. But whatever. It's my first coloured yoke sweater with fingering weight yarn, because the only other one I've done and finished is the Colour Burst sweater by Sophie, the Knit Pearl Girl. But that one was quite easy. There were no floats, it was Aran weight yarn, and this one took quite a while. But in 2 weeks I finished off this jumper. Less than 2 weeks actually, because I finished it Monday or Tuesday I believe. And I think it was Tuesday morning I finished it off when I realised I still had the day off. I thought I had to work on Tuesday, I didn't, I had the day off. So then immediately was like, screw working, I'm gonna keep knitting, and finished off the second sleeve. So it took me, 1.5 weeks roughly to finish off everything. So I could have done this whole thing in 2 weeks, and yet I took 2.5 months. Longer. All of February, all of March, 2 and a bit months. So not, could have been worse, but yeah, it's done. It's the first time I'm wearing it because I literally just started blocking it yesterday, and it's dried today, which is surprising because it's been really cold here in York. But I love it. It's so beautiful. I actually took a picture of myself and sent it to my mum because I was so proud of me wearing it. Normally I send like a picture of just the jumper being like, look, it's beautiful, and I'll show it off. But me actually wearing it, it's one of those awkward selfies where you use the bathroom mirror. I'm not including it in here. Nobody needs to see that except my mother. But yeah, so the yarn I used is Noodle Soup. This main colour here is Charcoal, contrast colour is Chainmail, and if you've watched my Darkwater Sweater videos, you would have heard me talking about how I was worried and that sometimes there isn't a strong contrast between the colours because this one has lighter bits, this contrast colour has darker bits. But I think even though you can see bits where it blends together more, you still, because of the rest of it, know what the shape is. I can't stop looking at it, it's so beautiful. But I'm not going to keep talking about it because I don't think there's really much I want to say because I've got a whole video planned where I talk you through it beginning to end, the experience and all of that. But the yarn, like I said, Noodle Soups, and it's her foot-free squish base, 100% merino, which makes colour work easier, but I know 100% merino isn't ideal for sweaters, it's more for shawls because it doesn't wear as well as nylon does. But I'm hoping it should be okay. I think pilling will be a bit crap, but we'll see. But I love it. It's so beautiful. And then, like I said, I filmed my German video first, so normally I grab everything off my bed, but this time I'll be grabbing from the floor. I have finished something else. Yes. 2 weeks and I finished pretty much an entire jumper, and I finally finished my intersection socks. So this is where I was on the second sock last time I showed it off. I knitted all of this. Most of it I did just kind of like in the evenings, being like just do a couple of rounds. And then this bit, most of, not the cuff itself, but most of the leg I did during a Zoom session with some lovely people. And I made a mistake. As you do when you're talking to people. So you've got right-leaning cables, left-leaning cables. But if you can see here, they connect because I didn't change. I just did the same one again. I don't really care. I think it looks cool. Means I can also be like, this will always be my left sock and this will always be my right sock. I haven't worn them because they've also just come off the blockers. And they still look quite long. But they did fit on the blockers. I'm hoping by wearing them they'll sort themselves out. But I know Kat from Heather and Hops was saying she probably made hers a bit too long as well. And for me, I know it's definitely because I don't knit toe-up socks. It's the first time I've done it. Really happy with them. It's quite a cool way of knitting socks, not gonna lie. But I still need to figure out what the actual length is before I do the heel. Because with cuff down, I knit so many of them, I've got it sorted. But with these ones, it's still... I figured out with cuff down how much ease I kind of want in the length of the foot. And with toe up, I obviously haven't been able to do that yet because this is my first pair. So these are definitely quite long, but you can see they're quite narrow. And I would have thought that would sort itself out with blocking on the blockers. But apparently my blockers are too narrow. So wearing it shall be. I just wanted to give them a bit of a block, mainly because it sorts the cuff out a bit so it's not as contracted, and I was hoping it would help the cables a bit. I'm not really sure blocking did much. It did sort out the kind of bunching in the heel, which is nice. But so the yarn that I used is the January Mystery Sock Club colour from Georgie from the Fibre Fox in Winter's Dawn. And I've got a decent amount left, but I think I might use that potentially in a colourwork jumper, because Anna Joanna is doing a knit along that started yesterday called Overgrown. It's a mystery knit along, and I think this colour could work quite well in it. But we'll see. I've got so many projects I need to do. Probably shouldn't do a mystery knit along right now. But so those are the 2 knitting things I finished. But there's one more thing I have finished. Before I was a knitter, the other craft that I did a bit of cross stitch. I was never very good at it. The back of my work was always a mess. But my first proper crafty love was sewing. It's what I've done since I was about 14 or 15 when we kind of learned to do it at school. And I was one of those people at school who I hadn't learned it before. And when I arrived in New Zealand, everyone else had already done it the year before and I hadn't. So because it was like a class of 30 teenage girls, the teacher was like, whatever, here, follow these instructions, go. And just really didn't give me any sort of attention. She was an awful teacher. I've had some really bad sewing teachers. Anyway, so I kind of had to figure out from these written instructions how to use the sewing machine, how to thread it, how to set it up. I was also at a new school, so I didn't feel comfortable asking people. I was a really shy kid and teenager. It took me a long time to build up any sort of self-confidence. So I just kind of suffered through and tried to knit. First thing I sewed was kind of like a project bag where we're meant to keep all our sewing stuff in. And I didn't know the foot of the sewing machine had to go down. So I spent a long time trying to figure it out. And then I don't know if it was the teacher. I think it was the teacher because I'm pretty sure she yelled at me for not putting the foot down. And I was like, I didn't know. Anyway, but then I fell in love with it. I think it was the fact that my mum spent some time kind of talking to me about it. We then got a way better teacher. She was incredible. It was just a crap fit for her because the school I went to in New Zealand was quite conservative, I guess you could say. I didn't fit in there either. But so she left and she ended up kind of doing some extra classes that you could pay for at an art school, and I did that, was it every Saturday? Something like that. I did it for quite a while and I learnt so much from her. She was incredible. So I made this basket, project basket. Isn't the material gorgeous down here? So this is from Thimble and Thread, and it's one of her maker's kits that you can buy. So you can buy these baskets from her already made because she's a sewer, or you can buy a kit like I did. I think it was at the end of February during one of the Yorkshire Yarn Fests. I bought the kit. It arrived after a little while, and then I took one afternoon during Easter to knit the whole thing. So it's got a pocket in here with the same material, and in here I've just got these stitch marker tins from Hook and Light where I keep a variety of stitch markers, and it's intended typically for storing, you know, like an actual project, so your yarn and everything, but I actually use it to store my needles. So that does mean that when I don't hold it up with these handles and it just sits, it does sit quite open, which doesn't bother me because you can always just kind of make something like sew on a button, or like one of those like pushy buttons. Do you know what I mean? But you can do something if you want it to kind of stay more shut. She does, so you can see these folds here. So I've ironed this, and the canvas is quite strong and thick. It was really hard to sew at some points, but because this is quite hard and I've got quite a few things in here, they're hard, they're relatively heavy, it does just push the bag out. Like I said, it doesn't really bother me. It could have potentially used maybe some thick interfacing to help a bit, because it only has interfacing on the lining here, the pocket that you get here. But you've got a variety of size pockets, which is really cute. You can choose how big you make them. The instructions for the most part were really good. I have been sewing, like I said, for a really long time. Almost 15, probably about 15 years now actually. On and off, because I haven't had a sewing machine in York, but I've used one of my flatmates' ones before. I have one now, obviously, since I did this. But I am very used to very exact measurements, very exact instructions, and there was a bit of hand waving with this instruction booklet that we got. Luckily, I've made project bags for my mum before, which use the same kind of technique to make this base, or at least similar enough. So I knew what to do. but I wasn't too happy with some of the instructions. The kit already came with all the fabric cut out, which I was like, yay, that saves me so much time. But, and this isn't meant to kind of shame anyone, but when I cut out fabric, I'm really precise and really take my time. So when I sew with stuff, it means I can trust that the measurements and everything I have cut out is perfect. And this wasn't the case with a lot of these bits. And, you know, I've had mum kind of cut out fabric for me before, and it just isn't cut to the standard that I like, which makes my sewing a bit harder and a bit more frustrating. This is why I always spent the time. But at the same time, I'm like, you know what? She already took the effort to cut this out. That's fine. I'll deal with it. But any more I make in the future, now that I've got the instructions as well, I would just buy my own fabric and cut everything out myself. And so that is a personal preference, that I don't like kind of pinning things together, sewing things together, and then trimming bits because they don't fit together as well. And it wasn't anything bad. I think it wasn't off by 20 centimeters or something, but even just like 1 centimeter bothers me personally. But it was definitely worth the money. Absolutely beautiful. The canvas was a bit hard to sew with, but that's just because it's thick, but that's so you have some strength to it. But you can also maybe see I've got some pins on here. This one's upside down. Great stuff. So I've got the lockdown sock down from Hannah from the Corner of Craft, and also the like critical, well, it's not really a critical role one, is it? But it says crit in it, so it's a D&D one, because I love D&D. So I needed to buy both of those from Hannah. And I'm sure you are already aware of this. Hannah has her own podcast where she talks about her knitting, but she also does studio vlogs where she like makes stitch markers and dyes stuff. I really enjoy watching them. But that's another thing I did over Easter. And it was so nice to get back into sewing. I have been meaning to, I've talked about this before, to make my own project bags because I don't have enough. And I think I have enough material for maybe 2 project bags. And then I've also got material to make myself a skirt, which I want to get to at some point. But I do find sewing is something, because there's a lot more setup, and because I can't have a setup permanently because I sew where I work, I can only really do it over the weekend, and it has to be everything else is already taken care of, and all I have to do is sit down, do some sewing, clean everything up, and we're good to go for Monday. And so over the Easter break, that was perfect because I knew I had a while to prepare, sew, and clean everything up. But it only took me an afternoon, but then it wasn't until the next day that I cleaned everything up. And there wasn't too much cleanup because, like I said, I didn't actually have to cut out fabric and stuff, so that cut my time down by a lot. But I'm really happy with it. There are some things I would probably do differently now that I've made it, but it was beautiful. Love it. And it's so cute. I'll give you a close-up of the fabric because I don't think you really got to see it. So, I don't know where she gets the fabric from, but she called this one hygge. So that Danish word for like coziness that has been going around for a really long time. So those are the 3 things that I finished. I wasn't going to talk that much about the basket because I know not everyone likes sewing, and then I spent ages talking about it. Sorry. Next, we have some progress on the Foxtail Socks. So these are by the Petite knitter. This is where I'm up to now with my second one. If I turn it around. So you can see I was up here last time. So I kind of just finished the section where I'm just knitting with 2 colours, and now I've done this bit here with 3 colours, done the fox faces once already, and just working down the second chart of the pattern. And if you haven't watched my videos before, then you can see now that I'm alternating the colours, and it's only the fox faces that stay the same. I'm always really terrified that when I show them off here and I go, oh, I forgot to change one of the colours around, but we're okay. I think I actually prefer it with the maple as the kind of main colour. I think it makes everything pop more. Because then the fox faces, I think, stand out more because this is like popping. Oh, it's raining and hailing. Nice. Gotta love the weather in this country. But like I've mentioned before, the yarn that I'm using is by Georgie from the Fibre Fox. It's a Plumpy base in maple, shell and driftwood. It's that dark brown. And she sent me this yarn. I didn't have to pay for it, but I will then be sending her the finished socks. But any yarn that's left over I get to keep. So just so you're aware, obviously it's not like sponsored or anything, but just want to mention I didn't actually pay for it. But I love her Plumpy base, as you will see later, because I have another project. So there has been progress on that. Hopefully they'll be done in 2 weeks' time when I film my next video, because I am just ready to be done with them. I've been knitting them long enough. Georgie needs her fox socks. The Fibre Fox needs her fox socks. So I did all of that progress that you saw just in an evening yesterday, actually, because I was like, I haven't really been working on these. I should do that. So if I actually sat down for like 2 or 3 evenings, I can finish them. I say that with a lot of things, though. If I actually bothered to sit down and knit on this, it would already be done. Yeah, it's a lot of things, isn't it? Next, another thing that I'm hoping will be done for next week is my Aito shawl by Melody Hoffmann. Whoops. So, this is where I'm up to now. Since last time, I've knitted from here up to here. So I've done about, with the lace that I've already done up here, I've probably done about 1 lace, 1 garter section. And starting from down here. So it starts in the black, transitions very quickly to the dark grey, and then transitions much slower into the lighter grey. So I'm on the last lace section now, actually. And then I've got 1 more garter section, and then I need to bind off. The bind off will take quite a while because I think I'll be at 240, 260 stitches, something like that, so quite a few. I have this much yarn left. I have another colour, so this is Plötulopi by Istex. I have another colour. I'm hoping I won't need the other colour because I don't want to transition into another one. But I knew I should have knitted with the black for a bit longer, but I was impatient. But because I pull from the inside, it means that while there isn't a lot of yarn here, like it's already getting quite thin, there is quite a distance to go around. So I'm hoping it'll be okay. Because with the dark grey, I definitely had it that I thought I had nearly nothing left, and I still was knitting and knitting and knitting. But I have got a lot of stitches now. So it's getting very wide. But I love it so much. Though when I pulled it over to talk about it in my German video, it ripped. It's fine. I will connect it again. But it gets a bit frustrating. I have no issues when I'm knitting with it, even though it is quite fragile. It's literally just whenever I move the project, I always have to kind of like simultaneously grab the project, grab the cake, make sure there's only a short distance between them, and then I can transfer it carefully. But I'm loving it. I really am loving it. I know people aren't always the biggest fan of this kind of more rustic yarn because it's not the softest, and it definitely is softer in this plate than it is knitted up. But I think with wear and with blocking and washing, I think it will get a bit softer. But it's very warm. So by the time this is done, probably won't really be able to wear it. Though to be honest, it's about 3 degrees outside or 5 degrees outside and will be cold for the next week or so. So I really do want this done soon because it's so cozy and it's so pretty. And I just want to knit another one. I said it in my last one. I shouldn't have been knitting this. I should have worked on this. But now that this is done, it's okay for me to knit on this. But I've just been loving it. And I'm normally not a huge fan of knitting shawls because I find they never end. But this has been going incredibly quickly for me. And I think part of it is just the yarn, the pattern as well, because the lace, I think, is like an 8-stitch repeat, something like that. And so it's really not hard to memorize at all. And it's just, I love it. And I love that it smells like sheep. Oh yeah, it's definitely raining now. So that's something else that should hopefully be done in 2 weeks' time. Less than that, really. I'm probably going to finish it this weekend. Then, not much progress on this next one, but I thought I'd share it anyway, because some progress has been made. I've spent, now that this is done, and there's no more, plain stockinette to knit, that's when I've been picking up my Otra Yoke cardigan again. So this is by Skeindeer, and it's one, I've got my steek stitches up the front here, where I'll be reinforcing and cutting at some point. Or is it snowing? Stop getting distracted. Anyway, since last time, I've only knit about a bit more than an inch and a half maybe. So not a lot. I've got a very short cable on this, so it's all kind of bunched together. But in total, I've maybe got 2.5, 3, not even 3 inches of the body done. And I don't want this to be a cropped cardigan. I want it to be full length, like the Darkwater Sweater that I'm wearing. So there's still a while to go, but that's fine. I know it will take me a while because there's no deadline with this. But because this is one of my Make 9s, I want to try and get it done sooner rather than later so I can start my next one. Because if you've watched my Make 9 video, I did say I won't start another one of those projects until one is done. So only one Make 9 on the go at once. And it's April already, so I need to get on it. But the next one I'm going to knit is a pair of socks. Colorwork socks, but I'm hoping it won't take too long. But so just a little bit of progress on this. I still love the colour choice that I made. Part of me still kind of thinks and wishes that I should have knitted this one before this one. Whatever, it's fine. I still think the colours just work perfectly with my main colour. So this is all Ducky Darlings yarn. The main colour is Rust Bucket. I am almost at the end of my first skein of that, actually. Really close. So once this is done, when I cake up the next one, I'll be starting the sleeves. I've got 2 more left, I think. So I'll do both the sleeves, and then whatever I've left goes into the body. I think, well, there must be a button band as well, so I do need to save up some. But I think it should be more than enough. I think the pattern might actually be cropped, which means I have to knit it cropped, which means I should measure this and figure out how much longer I need to make it. Anyway, it will be done at some point, because with the Darkwater Sweater I had 4 of the main colour, 1 of the contrast colour, and I just had to break into my 4th of the main colour for my second sleeve. I think I got to about here and then had to break into the next one. So I pretty much have it's sitting right over there. Pretty much have a full skein of charcoal left now. But it will just go into my scrappy project basket, which I've shown before on the podcast. And either it will go into my scrappy blanket, which I doubt because it's probably like a 90-gram skein, if not more. But it might get used for some more colour work in the future, because I think it's a stunning colour. So that was the Otra Yoke cardigan. And then an old project. I was going to say an oldie but a goodie. I don't think it deserves the title of goodie. This is the Nobu shawl, and if you've been around since the beginning of this podcast, this was in there. I can't believe I'm still knitting it. But we're getting there. You will not believe the progress, because I couldn't believe the progress. So, I think I shared it last week, didn't I? So I'm starting on the second half now of this shawl. So, this is the first half, which I did most of last year, and then stopped pretty much as soon as I stopped filming videos, because I wasn't keeping myself accountable anymore. But this is the next old project that I'm focusing on now. The other secret project is done. I was here 2 weeks ago. Look at all that knitting. But I had to do the decreases, bound off all the stitches, and then picked it up in my colour B. And then I've finished with colour A, actually. This is all I have left. So that will, once the project is over, will go into my scrappy projects bag. It's not a basket, it's a bag. But just in case anything happens and I need it, I don't want to then have to try and fish through all the scraps I have. So now I'm up to this section here. So still quite a long one to go. and then I'll alternate and switch to the final colour C. And this is a slog because while you are decreasing stitches, you've got these kind of twists and bobbles happening, and this took me quite a while. And at this point I was just losing motivation. But it's the perfect spring little like shawl wrap. And I think it will be amazing once it's blocked and all the stitches get to relax with the lace. So these two are both from the Fibre Fox. I've shared this so many times. I'm sorry, I don't want to talk about it anymore. And this is from Truly Hooked. Rainbow Drops, Rainbow Reflections, Wallflower. I'm pretty sure that's right this time. Apparently I say I don't want to talk about it anymore, and then I name them anyway. But that's my Nobusho, which I've been knitting since the beginning of 2020. So it's more than a year old. I think it might be my oldest project that I've still got on the go. I don't typically frog project because I spend quite a bit of time planning. So if it reaches a point where I'm not sure, well, I've never had a project where I'm like, I'm not sure I like it anymore. I might not enjoy knitting it that much, but when I do sit down, it's fine. It's just, there's a bit of a hurdle to overcome to get to the actual sitting down and knitting part, because I constantly have to check the pattern, which I don't enjoy. My mum's actually knitting one now as well. She's using DK weight yarn, so she's using bigger needles, and I've made quite a few mistakes with that shawl, which I now haven't made on my second half because now I know what I'm doing. But it means my mum's called me a few times or messaged me and been like, wait, I'm so confused, what's happening here, and this isn't working. So she will probably have a perfect shawl at the end of it, which will be much wider but also shorter than mine because it's DK. But it's looking beautiful, and I'm like, fine, you may have the perfect shawl at my expense. But I'm glad to help, and I think I probably will write up something for Ravelry just in case anyone else has the same issues that I've had. And maybe if people are interested in knitting that shawl, well, one, you can just, message me and I'll give you all the advice that I have. But I might do a quick kind of. That's what happens when you film more than one video in a day. But I might film like a review video, roundup kind of thing, where I talk about some of the issues I had and kind of explain how I dealt with them. Because it's not that the pattern is bad. It's well written. I like how it's written. But it is very overwhelming, the fact that every row has to be written out, because otherwise you're asking people to calculate, well, you've got one less stitch now, so you need to knit to this point. But there's just a few bits which you kind of wouldn't think would work, and you kind of just have to trust it and not overthink it. And some bits I just kind of got confused about, so I could share all of that, share the knowledge. And then the last project I've actually been working on is my Spring Intentions wrap. So this is by Kat Weaver, who has the podcast Heather and Hops, which I absolutely adore. And so she's running this knit along, and we have a chat on Discord every Saturday, so later today, where we just kind of knit together and stuff like that, which I've really enjoyed. It's been nice to kind of meet new people and things like that. So this is where I'm up to now. So last time I didn't put a marker in, I was down here. So I don't think I'd finished this kind of section yet, but almost. And now I've just got a bit more. So it is just a knit and purl textured kind of pattern, which is just meant to be really mindful and intentional, hence Spring Intentions wrap. And I've just really, really enjoyed it. I am normally not a fan of pink, but I really like the combo so far. And I think the next section, actually, I start in my other contrast colour. So it'll be nice to have this in there as a bit of a difference, because I've had two pinks so far. It's all being knit in the Fibre Fox's Plumpy base. And this is a Happy Accident colour, but all the other three that I'm using as my contrast colour are all from her Mystery Sock Club from last year. So like I said, all Plumpy base, so it's all like plumpy and soft from the cashmere. So every Saturday, a part of the pattern comes out. I think week 1 went up to here. I've started week 2. Week 3 came out today. I won't be getting there. Not for a little while. But Kat always does kind of say in the videos that she makes for her YouTube channel when she talks about this, but also when we have a chat with her on Saturdays, it's not meant to be stressful. It's not meant to, you're not knitting to a deadline. You're meant to sit down and be mindful and intentional with your knitting. So I've really tried to do that. I get very stressed sometimes with finishing things, like this Darkwater Sweater. And I definitely had it with this, that I was knitting even when I didn't want to knit on this. And while I can sometimes force myself to knit for a bit and then I start to relax again and go, oh, no, this is enjoyable. Why was I overthinking it? Which is really helpful for me. But with this, I was definitely pushing myself to knit even when I didn't want to. And I was distracting myself by, watching certain things and just hoping that I won't realise that I'm still knitting on it. And I don't want this project to be that at all. It's not the purpose of it. I want it to be I want to knit something and I just want to be in the present moment. So I've been starting to listen to Critical Role. Any of you are D&D fans, this is for you. I've heard so many people talk about it. Kat has talked about it, I'm pretty sure. Well, she's definitely talked about D&D, but she has another Discord group to do with knitting and D&D, and people have talked about it there. I've heard Hannah from the Corner of Craft talk about Critical Role, but I tried listening and watching series 2 because you can listen to it as a podcast or watch it on YouTube. But I don't know what it was. I just couldn't really get into the second series, and I think now I've figured out why. Because a lot of people who have listened and watched the second series have watched or listened to the first one. So they kind of already know the people. I'm pretty sure it's completely different characters, but you at least know the players. So now that I'm listening to the first one, I'm halfway through the 3rd episode now. I'm loving it. It's been amazing. And it's also been really reassuring with my playing style that these people, who are all kind of famous voice actors and stuff, are playing a very similar way to me and think of the same stupid things as I do. It was very nice. And I've been mainly knitting my Happy Scrappy blanket, which I'm not going to show off until there's a decent amount of progress to show. But every evening I make myself a cup of tea and I sit in bed and I just listen to this. I don't watch them on YouTube, I listen to the podcasts, and I just knit until I'm ready to sleep, until I've had my tea. And it's just been very intentional and mindful knitting, which has been nice. And I think now what I'm going to try and do, now that I've got 2 less projects, but I have started some new ones, I think I want to do that. I don't think I want this to be in a TV TV watching project. I think this is going to be more of a podcast listening project. Or when I, have my Discord chats with people, that's also quite nice to knit on this, because we're all knitting, we typically all knit the same things, but sometimes people will knit something else, which is, absolutely fine. No news on my Iskold sweater. Well, the Iskold sweater that I'm knitting for Helena from Permade Yarns. I'm still waiting for the yarn to arrive, the last one, and no progress to show on the Telegram cardigan by Becky Sorensen, because I've been tried to finish this, didn't I? And just focusing on other things. So that's everything I'm typically working on. I have got other works in progress, but I'm definitely not working on them at all. I might occasionally pick them up and knit like a row, but then kind of go, Nina, what are you doing? Finish something, and then you can actually give the time and attention to these projects. So that's why I've only ever got one Make 9 project, one of my old projects, like the Nobusho, because I want to be a bit more intentional, a bit more focused, get my projects down, and try not to cast on more than I'm finishing. She says that, but she's finished 2 projects and she started 3. But there's a reason for it, and I don't feel too bad because that Aito shawl will be done soon. The Foxtail socks might still take me a while because it's a bit of a hurdle to overcome because of the 3-stranded colour work. But the projects that I've started, I don't feel bad about because one of them I have lost. So I don't feel bad about it. No, there it is. So, my not spring intentions, my intersection socks were in here, and once I finished them, new socks went in here. And I showed last time the yarn from Ducky Darlings, one of the sister sock sets, and that's what I've started. So this is the project I talked about last time, where I was like, I want to cast these on soon, and I did. I think it was the next day after I'd filmed the video, and I can share the socks, but I can't say who they're for because they're not for me. And you'll see, because for me, they're baby socks. They are adult-sized socks, apparently. So this is the first one I've already finished. And what I've done is, so it comes with 2 colours, which I can show off here. So one of them's solid, one of them's variegated. I've used the solid at the top for the cuff, and then I've used helical knitting to interchange every row which one I'm using. And they do kind of blend together. It's a bit more obvious in person. I've done a fish lips kiss heel using the turquoise colour, done the foot, and the toe once again is in the turquoise colour. And for the second one, where I'm getting close to the toe now, I've got maybe 1.5 inches left or so. But yes, I've reversed the colours, so I've used the variegated one first, helical knitting, and then the heel and also the toes will be in the one that changes colour. So because I'm using circular needles, so it's a 9-inch cable, 2.5mm needle size, and because these socks are quite short, because the person that they're for has relatively small feet compared to me, definitely, they really haven't taken long. I've also made the choice to make them short just because I think that's what they'll prefer, and they've just gone really quickly. And the helical knitting is just quite entertaining because you're constantly like chasing the next yarn tail, if you will, and it just makes it really enjoyable, but mindful, mindless, enjoyable. It's just great. So if you don't know about helical knitting, I'll try and explain it. So here's the sock I'm currently working on. Get that focus first, perfect. So you can see here, these are the stitches I need to knit next. My beginning of round mark is here, not important for helical knitting though. So this is the next colour I need to knit with. So I'm currently knitting with the variegated. So instead of knitting all the way to the next colour and then slipping that up, I actually knit until so I'll knit these 4, and then there's 3 of the solid colour stitches left. I'll slip those onto the right hand needle, and then just pick this up and keep knitting around. And then keep doing the same thing. So you always just slip the last 3 stitches of the colour that you worked previously. So your beginning of round marker isn't important anymore because where you change colour constantly changes. And it's only important for heel and toe placement. So that's why I've got it in there. I did drop it earlier this morning when I was talking to my mum, but I figured out where it goes. But it just makes it really fun, and I love the socks. Oh, you can see the variation much better from this distance than close up. So these don't have much left to go. These will be done soon. And so I don't feel too bad about having 3 new projects on the go. And it will be another present knit. Gift. It's gift knitting. That's what I'm looking for. So those will be done soon. Probably, definitely within the next 2 weeks, because that first one I did within the first 2 weeks, and then most of this one as well. So not too worried about that. So that's the first one I've started. The other one I've started, I also mentioned in my previous episode, where I talked about the Woodland Cardigan and the yarn that I'm using from Emma Robinson, who's also on YouTube, but her company's called Woolly Mammoth Fibres, and this is one of her limited edition bases that's undyed. So I'm using that to make the Woodland Cardigan by Anna Joanna from Strands of Joy. And this is all I have so far. So the cardigan is first worked flat. You start the back, so that's what I've got here, and it will be quite an oversized cardigan. I think it's got a drop shoulder as well, so that's why it's like extra big. but I think it's got 8 inches of positive ease, something like that. My gauge is fine, but I'm knitting the back currently. I've got a provisional cast on at 2 points, so it's broken in the middle here. So I knit the back. I've done short rows, that's why the length is different, for some shaping. And once I've got the back, I think, to the length of the armpit, I'll then do the front, join it in the round because it's going to get steeked, and there's colour work at the bottom. So I think that's enough kind of info of why I've got such a long, rolled up little bit of knitting, without actually giving away too much of the construction and the pattern. I don't think you'd ever be able to figure it out from what I've just told you. No way. You could maybe use that style of construction, but that's not that unique, really. Different for me, but I've heard about it before. Anyway, so I haven't done that much of this yet. Knitting flat like this isn't always my favourite, and because this is non-superwash yarn, it is just a bit rougher on my hands, especially when I've been working with so much merino, and then the Spring Intentions has the merino cashmere, so everything's been really soft, which then makes it quite rough on my hands knitting with that. I do love it though, and like I said, I'm knitting with the Plötulopi, which is way more rustic than that yarn, but it's just been going slow. There's a lot of stitches, and I've still got a while to go before I can do the front. Slow going, but it will be done at some point. And then the other one that's new was only started yesterday. So I mentioned last week that I finished my Brine sweater by Lerge from Fibertales, and in one of her videos in December she talked about how she's been designing a new jumper, and she showed it off and was like, if you're interested in test knitting, let me know, contact me on Ravelry. So I did, and kind of didn't hear back. I was like, I'm sure she's busy. And then it was March sometime, she contacted me on Ravelry and was like, hi Nina, if you're still interested in test knitting, let me know your email address, bust measurement, all of that. So I sent that through, and then eventually got an email being like, you're part of the test knit group. It will just take a while because she still needs to be, there was some stuff she needed to sort out with her tech editor. But just before Easter, on the Thursday, I think it was, we got sent through the beginning of the pattern with the gauge and the start of the actual sweater. And it's her basket sweater. That's what she's currently calling it. So if you've seen her videos, you might already know, but I'll try and include the picture that she's posted before about it. And I forgot what yarn weight it was, and then spent ages just wondering without actually doing anything about it, and then went to one of her old videos, checked it out, DK weight. I have nearly no DK weight in my stash, and I'm trying to only test knit things where I have things in my stash because I don't want to buy too much yarn, she says, but she has new things to show you at the end. Anyway, and so I was like, okay, well, I don't want to buy hand-dyed yarn because I don't think that... Obviously, the Brine sweater I did do in hand-dyed yarn from Wild Atlantic, but a lot of her patterns, and especially this one, I was like, I don't think I want to do that. So I looked at what yarn she was using and decided, you know what, I'm going to buy that. It's not too expensive. It's new yarn to me. I've never knitted with it before, and I've heard people talk about how awesome it is. So I am using... She uses 2 different yarns, but I'm using the one she mainly uses, which is by Snelden. So it's a Danish company. I don't know if... So it's 100% wool. I don't think the wool itself is Danish. I think it's just they spin it in Denmark. I was about to say it in German. That would have been funny. So this is the main colour that I'm using. Then one of my contrast colours is this dark, really rich dark chocolatey brown. And I only have one skein of this, so it's already kicked up, is a white. So it's very similar to the colours that she's using in hers. It's just her kind of main colour is a bit more caramel, not this kind of brownie colour. And she uses a black, and I'm using it. It's a very dark, but it's definitely a chocolatey brown. And this is all I've done so far. So it's really not a lot. You can see I've got the ribbing. I've started knitting with all the different colours, and it's got stripes, but it's also got a bit of a colour work motif later on, which you'll see in the picture that I'll hopefully include. So this yarn is really interesting. In my German video, I called it woody, which makes more sense to me in German than it does in English, because in English, if I say woody, that doesn't give me the right feeling. It's grippy, it's rustic, but it's a bit oily and fatty almost. And it's just very unique. It almost feels a bit more like linen or kind of cotton. It doesn't feel too much like wool, but then it also feels a bit woolly. It's very, very weird, especially it feels so different in a skein, wound up in a cake, but then knitted with it feels completely different again. And I wouldn't be surprised that once it's blocked, it kind of, changes and blooms as well. It's non-superwash, so wouldn't surprise me. But these colours are very neutral for me, and I'm in love with it. I am just in love with non-superwash yarn. Can you tell, considering I've got, 3 projects currently? All in non-superwash yarn, and they're a lot of my new ones. So a lot to go. I think it needs to be done for the beginning of May, so I'm really trying to focus on this now. But my yarn only arrived on Thursday. Needed to finish. No, Thursday this week. This I finished before it arrived. So it only arrived on Thursday, and I started it on Friday, because I wanted to finish my intersection socks first. So not much to say about it yet. There were some issues with stitch counts at the beginning, and I'm currently still waiting on one bit of information, but I think it shouldn't change anything for me. I'm currently just trying to figure out if the neckband is going to be too wide for me, but to be honest, I think it's, just look at me being a test knitter, figuring this out. I think it's going to be okay, because that was something she asked in the pattern, whether for the bigger sizes, if this was going to be an issue. But I'm really excited for this to be done. I love it already, and I want it now because it's cold outside. But yeah, DK weight yarn. I love the Snelden yarn. Very different. It smells so sheepy. I love it. The Plötulopi has an amazing smell. The one from Woolly Mammoth Fibers also has a smell, but nowhere near as intense as this. This literally just smells as if I was at a farm sniffing a sheep. Love it. It smells amazing, especially with lockdown and not being able to go anywhere. I miss smelling sheep. Not like I did it all the time. It's just, I don't like going to farms and things. I like farm animals. But yeah, so that's something new that I need to focus on. So you can see I've done some short rows back here. So working on that, I've got only one of the white because you don't use it very much. I've got 2 of the darker colours. I think that should be enough. And I've got 4 of the main. It might not be enough because Lerga said she used kind of yarn from her stash and scraps and bits, and so she said it was really hard to figure out yardage. She gave us an approximation for what she used for the small, but because there's a lot that needs to be tested and figured out with the pattern, she can't really tell us how much yarn we'll need, which is another reason why I went for more commercial yarn, because even if I don't get the same dye lot, because it's stripes, it makes it really simple if I need to all of a sudden buy more, and if they're not the same dye lot. So I'm not as worried, and often with commercially dyed yarn, they're much more consistent, especially because it's a solid colour. So that's all the knitting projects. And I will just say with that, I like a test knit where I have to be heavily involved. I prefer that much more to just knitting a pattern and then just kind of saying yeah, it was written well, but maybe you want to make these changes. I like it when there's certain bits where they're I'm not sure how the fit is. Do you need more increases? Do you need less increases? And I know not everyone likes that. It's definitely a personal preference. But I like it because that is going to help me in some ways, if I want to design stuff. I've done some designs. I haven't released any of them because I'm scared. But it kind of helps me also to become a better knitter because it makes me think about things I'd never really thought about before, because I only ever knit my size and I get to see what other people are struggling with and having issues with. And I like an intense test knit because I feel quite confident in my abilities and, you know, figuring things out, and I don't mind ripping back. I really don't. New things. Let's start with these. So on Thursday last week, so the Thursday before Easter, my doorbell rang. I got a parcel. I wasn't expecting a parcel. I saw the bag and I was like, that's an order from Ducky Darlings. And immediately I was like, Nina, when did you order from Ducky Darlings? I thought we were trying not to buy yarn. What's wrong with you? And then I realised my mum had told me she bought something. She bought yarn where she said, one's for you, one's for me. You get to choose the colour. And I was like, oh, maybe this is it. And I was like, well done, Nina. Immediately with the self-hatred of, why have you ordered yarn and you can't remember? Anyway, so here are 2 more sister sets. So just like the blue one I showed off before, this one has one colour which is the same, this kind of caramel, and then the second colour, the variegated one, is different. And I've made the choice that I'm going to keep this more peachy grey one and give this greeny one to my mum whenever I see her. Who knows when that will be, and shipping to Dubai is a nightmare, so that's not happening. So I would normally go for this colour, personally. That's what I would have probably bought. So I thought it'd be cool to go for something different, because that's what I really like about when people buy me yarn, that they kind of, you know, and just presents in general, getting something that's a bit different out of your comfort zone. And I think this colour is gorgeous. It's just normally probably not what I would have bought, but I think it will make really cute, potentially socks, maybe something else. But I might do helical socks again with this colour instead now. But yeah, so really only one acquisition here, but I thought I'd show you my mum's as well. So I think Hayley from Ducky Darling still has quite a few of these sets and is releasing more because they're quite popular. They sell out quickly. Then the other hand-dyed yarn, so obviously that was a present, I didn't pay for that. But this yarn I did pay for. So on Friday, that's just... Nope, not just been. Friday last week, so Good Friday I'm pretty sure. A new hand-dyed yarn business launched. 2 sisters, Hannah and Lydia, I'm pretty sure, and they're called Wakuyan. First of all, don't even look at the yarn yet, just look at the label. I think that's absolutely beautiful. Beautiful design, and Waku, I'm pretty sure, means family, and I think the language was a Ga. I think it's Ga. I've looked this up before, and it's one of the languages that's spoken in Ghana, because their dad is from Ghana. So this stunning red with like oranges and pinks just spoke to me. And I think I'm probably going to make socks. It's their 75-25 merino nylon base. And they did this adorable... Oh, I love it because you can see a bit of the family dynamic, which I always love. Where Hannah filmed with her dad for an Instagram video to learn how to pronounce the names and what they mean. So this, I hope I'm pronouncing correctly. I did watch it again. Etsun, I think is how you say it, and it means red. Literally just means red, which I thought was really nice. And I like the fact that they've really touched on their roots. I think that's beautiful. And then the other thing I ordered is mohair, and this is Mokala Market. Yeah, Mokala Market. Computer just falling asleep. And look at all those different colours. Absolutely incredible. I was originally thinking about knitting myself a ranunculus with these because I didn't want to hold it with anything else. Like if I was going to hold it with something else, it would have to be like a white, beige, cream. But then I was like, no, I think I just want this to shine through. So I thought a ranunculus would be cute. But then, and with 2 skeins, I could make it long sleeved and probably longer than just cropped. But the more I've spent time looking at it, because they've been sitting on my sofa because I've kind of been showing them off to people when I've been talking to them online. And when I have yarn lying near me, I often get really inspired for my own designs. And I think I might try and use these to knit a top similar to the ranunculus in the sense that I'm thinking a circular yoke, but I don't actually want any lace detail up here. I want all of this just to be kind of plain stockinette, really plain design, and I might have a lace detail at the bottom. But I'm still thinking, still planning how oversized I want it to be, but I think that's what I might do, unless I find a kind of perfect pattern that speaks to me. But that's some yarn I've bought, even though I've told myself I really shouldn't be buying anymore, unless I really, you know, need it for a test knit or something. But with this yarn, I was like supporting two people, and I've met Lydia, I think, twice now because of the kind of knit along that Georgie is running, where we're all knitting from Strands of Joy. So we've had Zoom sessions where we chat, and that's where I met Lydia. And we both kind of went, wait, you test knitted the Aurora sweater too? We just didn't even realise that we'd officially kind of already talked. It was funny. But yes, I really wanted to support her new business, and I guess I can sort of talk about this now. Future projects, I want to knit the Una socks from 52 Weeks of Socks with us. Because I finished my first pair now for the challenge that is happening, Michelle's doing from the Loveliest Yarn Company. So I think these might be my next one. I was thinking about doing the February colour from the Fibre Fox, Promise of Spring, I think it's called. But I think I might do these first, because then I can show off some pictures and kind of help promote a new business, which is always nice. And then the other new yarn that I've got, which I did pay for and waited for paid for that as well, which is because I didn't pay for the first one. I waited for quite a while for this because I finally got to place an order for Nutiden yarn. And I feel like Nutiden yarn is something you either love or it's just not your style at all. But it's kind of like Plötulopi, but it's Swedish yarn instead of Icelandic. It's all Swedish sheep wool, I'm pretty sure. So it's all comes from Swedish sheep, and it's unspun like Plötulopi is. It comes in plates. I can already show you one. And they can't fully tell you the yardage that you get with each cake. Most of them come in 100 grams, but you can also, like I've done with one colour, this is a 300 gram cake bag, 300 gram bag of this kind of aquamarine colour. And so in total you'll have 300 grams of yarn, but not each plate will probably be 100 grams, because the nature of how they make the yarn, it just varies so much. So with the ones that weigh 100 grams, they sell them individually, but then they also have these bags of 300 or 500 grams. So the colour variation, the colour does vary between kind of the strands, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. So this one, the one I just held up, the aqua kind of marine colour, I want to hold with mohair and make the hood by Vanessa. Also forgot the name when I did my German episode. I'll have a picture. But so I want to hold a double and make like a sweatshirt with it, because I think that would be beautiful, and that's part of her Nutiden Appreciation Club that she's launched. So Nutiden, I think, only do a couple of updates a year, which I'm quite happy about, because while the yarn isn't that expensive, once you apply shipping, once you apply the fact I had to pay tax when it arrived here, it gets a bit more pricey. It's still cheaper than hand-dyed yarn. And it's still supporting, you know, a really lovely business. They have a Patreon. I haven't been able to get on there because it's quite hard. And they do like videos and stuff, but I've heard amazing things. And so I'm glad they don't do updates too often, because each colour is a limited edition. They never do the same colour again, because I think they can't even fully replicate it, because they can't tell you what sheep breed went into different colours and plates and stuff. And so if you miss out on a colour, the only way you can get it, or if you run out of a colour and you need more, the only way you can get more is if other people who've bought the yarn are willing to sell it to you, or just give it to you. You know, some people might not want money for it. So you have to buy enough. Otherwise you're potentially screwed. So I got 300 grams of that aquamarine colour, because that's all I need for the hood. That's what the pattern is actually called. So I need 300 grams if I'm holding it with mohair. And then two other colours that I got is this brown and then also this purple. So for those of you who follow me on Instagram, you might have seen a story I posted asking if anyone can find some recommend some matching mohair for this. I still haven't been able to find one that actually is the right colour. It's a very interesting kind of purple that looks relatively accurate when I see the picture on my phone, but I know that varies for people. And now I'm thinking I won't actually use mohair for it because I don't think I can find any. So these ones that I've got, I want to use to make the Fluff Nugget by Becky Sorensen because it's a beautiful pattern. And I might try and make it a bit longer. I think I've got enough yarn to do that. And this one I was gonna hold with mohair to make the Tulip Sweater by Melody Hoffmann, but I think I might not hold it with mohair and just see what my gauge is, because I've seen some people on Ravelry have posted where they held two strands like they're meant to and didn't hold the mohair and their tension was fine. Some people with the mohair had tension issues that they couldn't get it right. So I think I might just swatch, see what happens, and either adjust needle size or make a different size depending on what the issue kind of is, and just use it on its own, because I think mohair is so dominant when you knit with it that even if you hold this double, I'm still not convinced this will shine through as much. So I don't want to use, I've decided I'm not going to use mohair for that. I have found a pretty much perfect match for this one, more for the like proper aquamarine colour, the darker one almost, which I think is called Aqua, and it's by Knitting for Olive. So I haven't ordered it yet because I shouldn't knit with this yarn yet, and if I order it now, I'll want to knit with it now. But obviously the Tulip Sweater and the Fluff Nugget I could start now, but I'm really trying to just focus on what I have already going on and not knit anything else, like start anything else new right now. Is that everything? I think that's everything. I guess any sort of like, I think I'm probably not going to do too much chatting and life update stuff anymore unless it kind of fits in with what I'm talking about, because I'm planning on continuing with doing a, fortnightly video. So instead of a podcast every week, you'll get one podcast, and then the next week you'll get something like the Darkwater Sweater knit with me videos, and have those kind of knit with me videos be more of a chatty thing where I talk about what I've been up to, anything that's on my mind, talking about yarn stuff and things like that. And I think that will keep these episodes a bit more manageable, but some life stuff will always kind of pop in. But as I kind of said at the beginning, I did a lot of knitting over Easter, I did some sewing, and it was just really fun. Spent some time also talking to people online, friends and family, which was lovely. Ate some chocolate. I don't think I ever showed off the 500-gram limp bunny that I have. I can't show him off now. I still have plenty of chocolate left, but I can't show him off in all his giant glory. I do have a picture that I could maybe include. I might do that. But so Easter was really nice. I got to spend it relaxing, and I had so much time off because uni was closed for so long, and it was just lovely. And exactly what I needed. Though the good weather didn't last for very long in the UK. But I kind of expect that. Anyway, I won't talk anymore. I have been recording for a long time. I'm always going to say that at the end of my videos. But I hope you liked the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. The usual thing. And, you know, if you want to stick around and follow me and hear more about all the things I knit, please do subscribe. Like I said, you get a podcast video every 2 weeks. And in between, you typically get some kind of another video where I chat about my knitting. And if you are subscribed, you will see that there are German videos that pop up. They're just exactly the same as what I've just been talking about here. And I talk about the same things. Of course, how I say it and some other stories might have pop in that will be different, but you can watch both of them if you speak German as well. But I'm not sure it'll be that enjoyable. But thank you for watching, and I would love it if you would, leave a comment. Let me know how was your Easter? That would be cool to know. Did you do anything exciting? That is, if you celebrate Easter, if there was anything kind of special to do with that you did. If you don't celebrate Easter, but you still had some time off during that time, depending on what country you live in. I'd love to know what you've been up to, what you've been knitting on. And yeah, it would just be nice, instead of me just putting out that this is what I'm knitting on, I'd like to hear, what you're all up to. Because I know people watch the videos. Talk to me. Fill me in on your life. I am nosy. Obviously, only if you feel comfortable. But I hope you stick around. I've got a lot more ideas for videos, which I say all the time. But it's just the time thing about getting it done. So hopefully if PhD starts to finish, if I can get my thesis written, I've got some sort of job update stuff, which I'll talk about in probably one of my Knit With Me videos. Because this is long enough. I think they're actually, both my English and German are roughly the same length this time, which is nice. But finally, this is how I talk to all my friends and family. I talk, say, okay, I'll leave now, talk. No, I really should leave now, talk. But this time, I'm seriously leaving. And I am. I've got some test knitting to do, and I'm thirsty and hungry. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to follow me on Instagram if you want to see. I haven't been too active on Instagram. I had a crappy interaction with someone where they chose to kind of inappropriately comment on my looks. I guess I should have been flattered because it was nice, but I think it's just inappropriate commenting on someone's pictures when, you're talking about yarn and stuff and it's not really about you. And it's one thing for someone that to say like, oh, you're so beautiful, but it's something else when a strange man on the internet tells you these things. So I've stepped a bit back from Instagram right now, but I'm trying to still post because I do want to interact with people. But you can follow me there. And I'll see you in my next video. Thank you for watching. Bye.